Auburn, John Cohen's first call needs to be to Jon Sumrall.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. We're joined by Auburn message board legend Charlie 5, also known as the Kyle Rush. He's the man over the barnauburn.com, and he hosts the Top Button podcast. The timeline thing involved in the whole when you hire your head coach, it's throwing me off a little bit as far as like what reasonable expectations should be on this. And we'll talk about some potential hurdles as well with Jon Sumrall. But I think Jon Sumrall needs to be the first potential head coach that you call if you're John Cohen. And I want to be very clear. That I think DJ Durkin is absolutely a candidate, but I don't think you can interview him to be your head coach right now. I think you have to call elsewhere right now. And I think the first guy you need to call does need to be Jon Sumrall, who is currently the head coach at Tulane.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on it. You glanced over it really quickly. Timing matters, okay? And it not so much for the portal now, but early signing day is going to be the Wednesday after the Iron Bowl. So John Cohen mentioned in the press conference yesterday, the ideal time frame to name a coach is as quickly after that last football game as possible. With Tulane already having 2 losses, I believe, you're more than likely not going to be in that conversation for the Group of 5 playoff team. And I think last year they had a pretty similar record, and they played in the the Gasparilla Bowl. And I don't see that necessarily being something that Jon Sumrall would hang around for. Mm-hmm. So this is a really up and coming, a really talented coach that's had success at multiple stops, and I'm sure we're going to dig into. But he's also more than likely not going to be beholden to a game that would hinder something being announced very quickly after the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing would be like the American Conference Championship. Like, would he stick around for that? And he probably would, but I mean, looking like they're fourth in the American is what ESPN says. So, I don't really know exactly what that's going to look like as far as them being able to battle their way back into this. Like that, I think that would be an issue.
Even if he does that, though, you could still announce it, I think, before that championship. That championship's Friday, December 5th. Mm-hmm. So signing day is the Wednesday prior. If he's the guy, I think you could still probably announce it. Don't you think? And at least give your guys on the ground here, time to make calls, do whatever they can do to possibly reel some guys in if you think that Jon Sumrall announcement could help you lock in some of these guys. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
It does. It does make sense. It does make sense.
I see that they're tied for right now. They're tied for
Navy's ahead of them. Memphis is ahead of them.
North Texas,
South Florida.
They're tied with South Florida and East Carolina.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to do that. But I wonder what that looks like if that's not the case. But does that then limit you? Well, yeah, we'll get into more of the timeline of it all. But as far as what makes Jon Sumrall like the up and comer, I like that he's a defensive minded head coach. I like that. I mean, I think we need to pivot. I like the intensity. I like the age. He's 43, and he's got experience in the SEC. Obviously not as a head coach, but he has been in the SEC. He had stops multiple times at Kentucky, and then he also had a year in 2018. He was over linebackers at Ole Miss, and then obviously he was in state at Troy for a few seasons, and now he's at Tulane, where he's kind of kept moving up. I said I don't know if it was a Locked On or if I was with you on the Barncast on Sunday night, Kyle, but I know this sounds ridiculous to say, and it sounds super plain, but like I'd really like to have a coach who hasn't been fired anywhere and who's just kind of he keeps getting better jobs instead of like us getting somebody who like it didn't work somewhere prior.
Or that there's something that you have to explain away. Like he would come with
some sort of controversy or whatever.
Come with a pretty clean slate, I would imagine. There's not a lot of
I like that
blemishes. That's different.
I like that for sure. So
yeah, that would be good. I also like the idea, and I don't know if this is something we're going to talk about in just a second, but I like the idea of creating your own success. Like a lot of guys ride coattails. Like you see a lot of coaches that ride the coattails of others, and sometimes when they get a job that maybe they aren't ready for, or they get a job just because of who they know, they crash and burn when they get to a level that's outside of their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see that with him. Like, in other words, he's not really riding the coattails of any big coaching names. Like, for the most part, he's worked with Stoops at Kentucky. Like, that's kind of been the biggest coach that he's sort of ridden behind. And when you go to a program like Troy that Chip Kelly or Chip Lindsey had kind of cratered there for a little bit, and you turn around and you have instant success there. Now, he did follow Willie Fritz, who had kind of had two really good seasons. He had two really good seasons at Tulane, and he's kind of kept that train moving. But for the most part, he is his coaching tree. Like, he kind of created it. He's created his own success, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. It's a lot different than, in my opinion, a Billy Napier, who gained a lot off of being a Saban assistant and this, that, and the other. So he's kind of done his own thing, and I think there's a ton of value to that.
And so this is his fourth year as a head coach. He had 2 at Troy. This is his second at Tulane. 12-2 overall at Troy in 2022, 7-1 in this conference. In 2023, 11-2, 7-1 in the conference. Last year, 9-5 at Tulane, did go 7-1 in the conference. And now, as we mentioned, he's 6-2, 3-1 in the conference. So he's 38-11 overall, taking over a Troy program that appeared to be down. And then, like you said, inheriting a Tulane program that has certainly been trending up. And I think that's a potential negative, maybe larger than some other people. And I want to jump into that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Right now, if you're new at FanDuel, you can bet $5. If your first $5 bet hits, you get $300 in bonus bets. You got to love that. Auburn, 7.5-point dog on the road against Vanderbilt. I think that's a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. How many points are we going to score? Like that's kind of what this is going to come down to. Do you believe DJ Durkin can put some oomph in the offense?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, he talked about it yesterday. It felt like there was untapped potential, and they're definitely going to do some things different. So I would like anything under 6.5. I think anything over 6.5, I would feel pretty comfortable with.
Yeah. I'm not ready to make my pick yet, but I don't think I'm too far off of you on that. So right now, once again, new customers can get $300 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet hits. So head to FanDuel.com today. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Kia Autosport of Columbus. We all love Kias, whether it's the new Sorento or any of their other makes and models. My family has purchased a Sorento. We love the Kia Sorento, very versatile SUV. You can browse their inventory at KiaAutosportColumbus.com and start saving today. And of course, you can go see them in person. They're in Columbus, Georgia, right off of Whittlesey Boulevard. If you're in the Auburn-Opelika area needing a vehicle, if you're around Atlanta, it's a short drive either way. And the customer service you will get there is certainly worth it. And of course, you purchase any new Kia. You mentioned Locked On Auburn. You're going to save $500 and also tires for life. Just be sure to ask some more questions about that when you get there. Once again, visit KiaAutosportColumbus.com or go see them in person right off of Whittlesey Boulevard in Columbus, Georgia. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. There's some of the aspects of this that I don't love. The Willie Fritz argument of him building up Tulane and then Jon Sumrall just keeping it going reminds me of Brian Harsin when we hired Brian Harsin, and it's like, oh yeah, well, Boise just keeps winning. And it's like, well, he didn't build that. He was just the next guy, and he did continue to win there before he came over to Auburn. I kind of got a slight parallel there, and it's not Sumrall's fault. He took a job that was better, but I don't love that as far as, only 3 full seasons as a head coach as we have this conversation. That does give me a little pause.
Here's my argument to that.
Please.
Rosters change so much from year to year. So how many players that Willie Fitz brought in are still there or helped Jon Sumrall, I guess, year over year? I mean, he had a Darian Mensah kid who was one of the top quarterbacks in the portal leave. And then the next year you go up there and you beat him at his school that's really good. So I know that they've had success, and that in it of itself makes a place attractive. Not necessarily saying you'll have a bunch of holdover players, all this depth that Willie Fritz built. Just Tulane winning makes it a destination for transfers and things like that. But you have to keep it going. There is definitely something to say for a guy keeping something going. Like I said, he went to Duke, or I guess Duke came to New Orleans, beat him with your old quarterback. They had your old quarterback. You beat Northwestern, who not a great school, not a great program in the Big Ten, but a Big Ten school that's 5-3. So you've had some big wins regardless. And I don't know that you can necessarily point everything back and say he won this because of Willie Fritz, because you can look at what he did at Troy, and it's sort of like a natural progression.
No, I love that. I love that argument for it. As far as his style, I think it's what we both want as Auburn's next head coach. I'd like to go more of the old school style head football coach, defensive minded. You can get a defensive coordinator to come up under you that is probably going to be a big recruiter and probably a guy that's going to be over a specific position as well, like defensive coordinator / linebackers coach or / safeties coach or something like that. And then you're able to just invest so much on the offensive side of the football because that's what we need culturally. I like the upside that could represent.
Yeah, and I think if he doesn't get a head coaching job offered to him, I think he brings a really, really good offensive coordinator with him, and Joe Craddock, who's been with him since the beginning. I think he played at Briarwood Christian, college quarterback at Middle Tennessee State. He's had success with quarterbacks, and I mean, you look what he did with. I can't remember his name now. I knew it right before we got on here, but there was a quarterback, I think his name was Gunner possibly or something like that at Troy that was really, really good, had really good numbers. And then he's just kind of continued that. I think he could be a really good ready-made Gunner Watson. Yeah, there you go. And then obviously he had Darian Mensah last year that was really good. And then he lost that quarterback, and then the guy he's had this year has struggled a little bit, but they're still winning games. So I like the offensive coordinator guy that could possibly come with him.
Would you be okay if they got? Some of this depends on who you get, but I don't know if I want. Like when we hired Brian Harsin, so much Boise came with him.
Yeah.
When we hired Freeze, it was a nice combination. Okay, a lot of people from Liberty came with them, as well as, folks from Ole Miss eventually coming here. I assume it would be the same with most of the people you hire. That seems pretty normal. Are we okay with people from Tulane coming to an SEC school? Is that something you're okay with? Because that's another thing that kind of gives me a little bit of pause.
So I think the idea – I might blow your mind here for a second. So I think that I think that regional coaching matters so little anymore.
Okay.
So I don't think you necessarily, with the way you have these off the field player personnel, what are the, I mean, it's basically organization. Like you have a whole organization off the field that helps you recruit these kids. It matters a little bit, but I don't think it's as critical as it was when maybe Harsin came in and that structure wasn't really built yet, and he didn't do anything to build that structure. Now,
That's
if Harsin were to, if we had the off the field staff we had now, and you brought Harsin in, and this was already like a machine that he was bought into that could bring players in, I think they probably would have been much better. But it was at that point in time, you're still trying to recruit because the portal thing is still a little bit new, and you don't really know exactly what direction you're going to go. But now that you have all these, you got the Will Redmonds of the world and the Kenyatta Watsons and all these guys that do a vast majority of the work for you. I don't know that like these old school famous SEC position coaches are 100% necessary in the SEC. I may be way off on that, but I don't think so. I think you can win with your guys now because of what a lot of these schools have organizationally off the field.
There's still some demands that are just different when you go from P4 to
there's standards. There's standards.
Standards, pressure, I mean, at the week in, week out grind. I mean, I'm sure your game plans have to be more diverse. I mean, there's so many different things that go into that. Because I think a lot of people who are not pro Sumrall, the big question is, okay, like, why can't we get somebody who's proven at the P4 level, which I think is a reasonable question.
Maybe.
But is that going to be, is Jon Sumrall the guy? I think I like Jon Sumrall a ton. And if he's Auburn's next head coach, I will be stoked when that announcement is made. But there are some questions about, like, does the translation happen? Is success guaranteed? Because coaching Auburn is going to be way different than coaching Troy and coaching Tulane.
Well, I mentioned I like that he's created his own success without coming out from under, riding the coattails of a big-time coach. I like that aspect of it. But there's also a little bit of an aspect that could be a hurdle, and that's like hiring coaches. Like, you don't have a huge coaching tree yet, or you're not able to siphon off of another, big-time coach's coaching tree. So, like, what if he accepts the job? Okay, what if he accepts the job and then Tulane offers the job to Joe Craddock, like the offensive coordinator? Like, right off the bat, like, does Jon Sumrall have the connections to be able to go hire a competitive, like, top of the line with the money he's going to be able to get to go get an offensive coordinator? Is he going to be able to command that, be able to sell that, I guess? Yeah,
I guess that's got to be a thing where you're like, okay, hey, John Cohen, like, let's flex Auburn, let's flex some money, and let's go get the whoever you believe to be the guy. One last question on Sumrall, then I want to talk about the timeline that I think is going to be super tricky in a few weeks. Do you see a world where Jon Sumrall and DJ Durkin could coexist and both be on Auburn's staff next year? I'm having a hard time picturing it, and I don't like it.
Let me tell you why I think it would be really, really tough. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say that the likelihood of Durkin being here, if he's not chosen as a head coach, is probably really low. And I'll tell you why. There's so many players that love that guy. There's so many guys that want him, I think, to be the full-time head coach.
Yeah.
Okay. So human nature will make you cling to the guy that you think should be the head coach. And there could be some, I don't want to call it animosity, but there could be somewhat of like a two-team scenario where you got like the DJ Durkin guys, and then you got any guys that Sumrall may bring in. So
that would not be good.
And I think even like in the military, I talked with a guy, even in the military, when there's a promotion like that within, if they have a really good guy underneath him that was also vying for the job, they typically move into a whole different department for that very reason, just so there can't be guys pulling in different directions. I'm not saying DJ Durkin would be guilty of that. Like, he would cause that kind of riff. He may be totally happy being, just a defensive coordinator forever. But my gosh, man, he's 47 years old. He's sharp as a tack, and those kids love him. Like, it feels like he's going to be a head coach somewhere. And if it's not at Auburn, I just don't see him being underneath a guy that's younger than him on the same side of the ball with him when he's probably got a better resume coaching defense than him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. So, yeah, I agree. I think they'd have a hard time coexisting, which might be a knock against Sumrall. But also, I think there's an argument of you wanting somebody who can come in and
do it their way
and build their own thing. So
he's a good defensive coach in his own right. Like he's a really good young up and coming defensive coach. He's got a really good defensive coordinator that's with him that he could bring, or who knows, he may have some relationships where he can bring in another guy. So it's catch-22. I just don't see him being on the same. I don't see him being on the same staff.
Yeah, and we're probably going to feel that way on any defensive-minded coach, correct?
I would think so.
Same. I'm having a hard time thinking of an example where that wouldn't be the case. The timeline, I think, is interesting in the coming weeks, and Cohen talked about that a little bit yesterday. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Can you imagine buying a ticket anywhere else, Kyle? I can't. The idea of it makes me angry. It's like, why are you wasting time? Why are you wasting money? Just go to Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Doesn't matter if it's for, football, basketball, baseball, concerts, the theater. It doesn't matter what it is. Download the Game Time app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. You get $20 off your first purchase. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. Hey, go help the Auburn family take over Nashville this weekend.
Do it.
Get on Game Time. Get you a ticket. Once again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download Game Time, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. John Cohen mentioned, he was asked about the timeline, and I appreciated his answer because I think it was honest, and I think it was kind of what a lot of people who are following this closely were wondering. There was a few years, like when we hired Harsin, that signing period, like Kevin Steele was the interim, and we didn't know who the head coach was during that signing day. And I'm like, what a wild, that whole process seems like a fever dream still, if I'm being 100% real with you. But what is like the signing day is like 4 or 5 days after the Iron Bowl. And so how do you, in this day and age, get a kid to sign if there's questions about who you have coming in to be the head coach? They definitely won't know their position coach. I mean, you have no idea what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
And who you're playing is going to, how it wouldn't impact into this decision. I don't know how you could do that, because if somebody makes the playoff, I don't think you can hire them. I don't think you can hire somebody who's like competing for a championship.
Which is wild to think about, isn't it?
It is wild. It's like his extra bonus if you're like a smaller school or whatever that's making, or like Ole Miss or Indiana. I mean, just because those are two names that I'm not calling them smaller schools, but like two names that, are being thrown around as like, oh, maybe you can go and get these guys. If you make the playoff, like, I don't think you can get poached, which is such a big advantage.
Oh, huge. And maybe a big advantage for Auburn, too, if there's teams like an LSU or like a Florida, when everybody's like hell-bent on make a big splash. We got to make a big splash. We got to go poach somebody. Keep them waiting. Like, you guys want to wait until the 21st or towards the end of December to try to see if you can get Lane Kiffin. Fine. Do that. Who cares? We'll go ahead and try to lock our guy up. And again, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. That's one of the pluses I would plus check marks I'd put in the Jon Sumrall category. I remember Kevin Steele talking about how they almost pulled off like a huge flip or something like that on signing day, whenever or before signing day, whenever they're trying their best. They said it was real fun. You had no idea what you're selling. It feels like the difference is you got an off the field staff now, and they can talk money and they can talk numbers and they can talk at least what they feel like direction Cohen's going in. And hey, look, here's the thing. You can always throw out this too. If you don't like the hire, you can just go right back in the portal after January 2nd. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
We feel like we're going to get this guy. Come on in, go ahead and secure your spot, kind of put your name on your NIL deal. And then if you don't like the hire, you got basically a month to go back in the portal if you want to. I mean, that's crazy, but that's on the table.
Well, the portal would open anyway, right?
Anytime. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like it opens, 5 days after the new hire?
That's different. That's only if the firing happens after January 2nd. So, I think that was basically like the Nick Saban rule. You know what I mean? Like waiting until school starts and then doing the retirement thing or whatever. So you can't lose anybody. So the portal doesn't really change for Auburn, no matter when you hire a coach. So even if they hire Sumrall or whoever on like December the 2nd, the portal does not open 5 days later. And then you have that 30-day or 15 days plus the portal in January 2nd. The portal is only going to open January 2nd.
Which is good. I mean, I think that's good. You want the portal to be open as little as possible for your players. Yeah, and I'm hearing people comment this or saying it out loud while they're driving to work listening. Well, do you want your next coach to be coaching in a meaningless bowl game? Because that's kind of what you need for them to, say, okay, thanks guys. Thanks for the memories. I need to go coach Auburn and close the signing class. That's going to be a very common pushback when that happens.
Repeat that one more time about coaching in a bowl game. Repeat that. I couldn't tell if you're talking about coming to Auburn to coach their bowl game or coaching their own bowl game.
Based off of the production of whoever you're hiring, let's say it's Sumrall, and they go back to the Gasparilla Bowl or whatever. Okay. You're hiring a guy that's coaching that's supposed to be coaching in the Gasparilla Bowl. Mm-hmm. It's not exactly like the standard of excellence.
Correct.
That'll be a common pushback from Auburn fans if that's the route they go.
Yeah. And to me, like, I'll just say, okay, what about Kirk Cignetti? Like, let's talk about all these guys that are G5 coaches. I mean, there's so many examples on both sides. We can go down the list of Power 5 no-doubters that busted and Power 5 no-doubters that hit, coordinators, G5 guys. Like, we can do that till we're blue in the face. Yeah, the bottom line is it the best fit? Or did you exhaust all options and you came to this person as your number one pick? And if that's who it is, roll with it. And if we can't get behind it, that's on us.
Yeah. And also, like with Sumrall, it's Tulane. Like, what's the realistic ceiling for that? But
exactly.
I'm with you. That's going to be something that somebody comments or.
Oh, there's going to be people that call him Billy Napier, like the next Billy Napier, like till they're blue in the face. And
there's a lot of Billy Napiers, and there's going to be a lot of similar guys that get a shot this carousel, whether it's Sumrall, whether it's Golish, like that's going to happen. They're going to get a shot, and they're not all going to pan out. That's just the nature of it.
That's part of it. That you wouldn't have all these coaching vacancies if everybody was hitting every single time.
That's right. So yeah, no, I all in all, like, I really like the idea of Jon Sumrall. I think it makes sense for some reasons. I think there's some clear questions for others that we address, but that is our thoughts on Auburn reaching out to Jon Sumrall. Kyle, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Absolutely. Go to thebarnauburn.com, jump in today, jump in the conversation. That's our message board. We having a lot of fun on there. Our game threads are fun. Recruiting chat's fun. Team chat's a lot of fun as well. The Barn Auburn YouTube page and the Barn Podcast Network, anywhere you get a podcast.
Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.